gotta be one of my favorite spots in the city. It's an absolutely beautiful afternoon, although I did just try walking on the beach for a little bit, and it's really, really windy outside, so I was like getting pelted in the face with sand. It was pretty uncomfortable, but as long as I hang out in the van, I think I'm gonna be okay. So I'm not really hungry yet, but I decided to make dinner anyways. I figured by the time I finish this, it's a pretty complicated thing that I'm about to make here. By the time I finish up with it, I'm thinking I'll be pretty hungry, or at least have worked up a little bit of an appetite and be ready to start eating it. I also really want to use the solar while I have it. I've noticed in San Francisco during the summer like this, it tends to get pretty foggy in the evenings. Like by 4 or 5 o'clock, the fog starts to roll back in, and then all of a sudden the sun is gone. So while I have the solar, I want to use it. I'm obviously cooking with the Instant Pot here, and I'm pretty much cooking entirely on electricity, so I want to be able to use it while I have it. I have recently been having some weird issues with the Instant Pot here. It's not really fully coming to pressure all the time. It did just come to pressure though when I made that rice, but for some reason I might have maybe used too much water or something. It didn't cook all the way, so got to give it a couple more minutes in there. It has been acting kind of weird though. I have been using it a lot over the past 6 months or so, so maybe it's normal. I know that there are a lot of things that could possibly be. The seal around the edge sometimes starts to go bad, and that keeps it from getting to pressure all the time. Or if you put too much in it, or you put too little in it, there's a lot of different things that it could be, but I don't know. I gotta figure it out because it's kind of getting annoying at this point. By the way, for the meal, I am making sushi again. My plan is to do like a spicy sweet potato roll, which I'm realizing now is definitely an oxymoron and doesn't make any sense at all. But the idea is that I'm trying to get it to basically be like a vegetarian version of a spicy tuna roll, I guess you could say. It's definitely cheaper just to buy a sweet potato than it is to buy like actual tuna steak, so decided to try this out. I actually did it a couple of weeks ago and it worked out really well. It's really not very complicated to make this. It just tends to take a long time because I have to make the rice, and now I've got the rice set aside. I gotta let the rice cool, and then I gotta turn it into sushi rice, add in the rice vinegar and some sugar, and then kind of let it spread out, and then I can use it to actually make the rolls. And then once I finish that, now I'm letting that cool off. Like I said, I have to use the Instant Pot again to make the sweet potato. So I basically am just boiling sweet potato in there, and then I'm gonna mash that up almost like into a casserole, and then mix in some like mayonnaise and some sriracha and some seasoning and everything like that, and then roll it into the sushi roll with some cucumber. But like, it's only like 3 or 4 ingredients total here, and then some spices and some seasoning. I mean, it's not that difficult. It just, you just have to have some patience because it takes a while to actually do all the steps here. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna make sushi again for a little while. It's not that it was bad, it was like really tasty. It definitely came out well, but the amount of effort that goes into it and then the cleanup process that comes along with it was just a lot. At one point I dropped a little sushi roll, like it like slipped. I wasn't holding it right in the chopsticks, and I dropped it into the soy sauce, and then there was just like an explosion of soy sauce everywhere. It got all over my pants, all over my bed. It's just so many things to have to clean up. I ran out of paper towels halfway through the cleanup process, so now I just have like things that I just can't even clean at this point, and I got this toilet paper I've been trying to use, and it's just falling apart, and it's been a rough evening. So it is the next day now. I think I've recovered mostly from my sushi disaster yesterday. I was able to finally get everything cleaned up. I had to go get some paper towels, but was able to get it all done, and now I'm just kind of hanging out, taking it easy. I kind of spent most of the day today at a Starbucks nearby, and I just had a lot of stuff to get caught up on the internet, a lot of work to do and stuff. So I was there for probably like 3 or 4 hours this morning. I think I got there like 7:30 this morning, and I was there until lunchtime. So definitely a pretty busy day, I guess you could say, but I've kind of just been hanging out mostly in the city. You know, I've been in the Bay Area on and off at least for a while now, and beforehand I found myself kind of gravitating more towards the South Bay. Those of you that are familiar with the Bay Area will know this, but the South Bay is a lot more suburban. It's a lot more spread out. It's a little bit easier to find parking and everything like that, whereas up here in the city it is a little bit more of a challenge. But recently, over the past few weeks, I haven't even really been bothering to leave the city. I've kind of just been staying really close to downtown, getting more comfortable with it, I guess. You know, there's a lot more traffic, there's a lot of people walking by, a lot more foot traffic, so it's definitely a lot louder. I mean, San Francisco is a really big city. It's a really busy city, and the places that I've been staying have not exactly been the most quiet, but at the same time, I think I'm just kind of getting used to it. I'm getting used to it, and I really enjoy being able to kind of go and walk around and be able to not have to drive every time I want to go somewhere, finding a place to park, hanging out there for a few hours, and then moving on, and it seems to be working out okay. I'm really kind of liking it. I guess I am just a little bit of a city person. I know that I've mentioned that in previous videos, that a big reason why I got such a tiny van was so that I could spend time stealth camping in cities and be able to kind of blend in a lot easier, be able to park in really small spaces, being able to drive around on tight streets and stuff like that where there's a lot of people popping out and stuff. So I don't know, I think that's it's a big part of me. You know, I love spending time on the BLM land and camping and everything like that, but I also equally enjoy being in heavily populated areas and in major cities. So I've recently started using a VPN for the first time, and like when I was at Starbucks today all day, I was working on public internet, and it's kind of bad actually that I only just started using a VPN, because for the past like 3 years I've been working mostly on public internet. Every time I need to upload a video, anytime I basically need to do any kind of work, I would go to a coffee shop. A little bit less now that I have this desk set up in here, but even so, I do find myself at coffee shops very frequently, and I don't know, the VPN has been really nice to have. I finally have that peace of mind to know that I'm not really being hacked or have any sort of malicious things going on while I'm on the internet. My information is encrypted and it's protected. The VPN that I've been using is called Surfshark. I definitely recommend checking them out. I'm going to put a link in the description below to their website. And what a VPN is, for those of you that don't know, it's a virtual private network. So like I said, it's basically just a way to make like an extra safety layer while you're using the internet to be able to protect your information, encrypt your information. That's mostly what I'm using it for. There are also other benefits to it as well, though, like the geolocation thing, so you can kind of change your location, so you're basically browsing from anywhere in the world if you just want to pick a server from anywhere else, and that will allow you to access things like Netflix and stuff. I don't really watch a whole lot of Netflix, but I think I might experiment with it if I have the time, you know, to see what it looks like to watch Netflix in a different country or something. But overall, from the safety side of things, like I said, I'm always on public Wi-Fi, and I feel a lot safer now that I have my information encrypted and I'm using a safer internet connection. So definitely be sure to check them out. Like I said, there is a link to their website in the description below, and I also have a promo code. The promo code is Element. That'll get you a discount on an annual subscription to the Surfshark VPN service. By the way, the thumbnail of this video with the San Francisco police car there, that is not clickbait. There is actually a story behind that I want to share with you guys right now. And the other day, I was just kind of parked in San Francisco. I was right next to a park. I wasn't technically in the park though, like I had to like cross the street and then I was in the park, but I was like on the opposite side of the street, right next to a park. And what I did is, it was really hot outside. It was probably, it was like San Francisco hot. So it was like 80 degrees. It wasn't that hot, but I had the top pop because it was warm inside the van, and I had all the windows open. I was working on my computer, doing a lot of editing. That gives off a lot of heat. So I was trying to keep things cool in here. And eventually, after a few hours, I ended up having my first police encounter in probably close to 2 years at this point. I have not really had too many issues with police, and this was a really unique police encounter because it was not at night. Normally, it's at night. You get woken up in the middle of the night, you hear that knock. Any van person knows it. It kind of jolts you out of your sleep and scares the crap out of you. But this was very different because it was in the middle of the day. It was like right after lunch on a Tuesday or something like that. I'm just sitting in here doing my thing. I'm working on my computer, and all of a sudden I hear this knock, but it was not the knock on the metal. It was knock on something else. It ended up being the glass. The police officer was using his baton to tap on the glass, and I didn't even know what it was at first. Like, I had to wait for a couple of knocks, and I was like, what is that noise? Like, what is that? I couldn't even really tell what it was. And then I realized, so I open up the curtains here and poke my head out and roll down the window, and I get to talking to these police officers, and it wasn't a bad encounter. It was totally fine. They were very polite. They were very nice. At first, I thought it was actually kind of funny. I said, like, how's it going today, officer? But I don't know if he didn't hear me or something, so he responds in Spanish. He starts speaking to me in Spanish. He goes, "Se habla español," and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I speak Spanish, but like, I can also do this in English, and then they start laughing. They're like, "Oh, I thought you said something in Spanish." I don't know why they assumed that I was Spanish speaking, but anyways, you know, we get to talking and having this conversation, and I kind of found out a little bit about San Francisco police and I guess what they have to do during the day. And they start telling me about how their job during the day, at least part of their job, is to kind of go around the city and almost keep tabs on the homelessness issue that's going on here, and kind of watching where there are RVs parked up and stuff, and also like tents. Like even right now, I'm parked 1 block away and there's a bunch of tents just on the sidewalk, just a block down here, with a bunch of people just living in tents on the street. And I guess like their goal is to kind of keep things more dispersed, I guess. That's kind of what they were saying. So they don't want RVs to get attracted towards one area, because when that happens, then all of a sudden you have 50 or 100 RVs lined up on a street. If anyone's been to San Francisco, I'm sure you know about what's going on here with that, and they were a little bit worried about it. So I was totally respectful and totally nice. I even offered to leave. I offered to put the top down to make it so that I was less obviously hanging out inside the van, and they said, no, you don't have to do that at all. It's totally fine. You're welcome to hang out here. Just don't stay here for too long, because if you're here for multiple days, you know, the neighbors and stuff will start to complain, and then they'll have to deal with it at that point. So they were totally fine. It was just really interesting to kind of hear their perspective on that's like one of the things that they have to deal with every day, and one of the things that they keep track of. Like they have like a notebook. One of the officers had a notebook, and he was like writing down every RV, and they were keeping track and stuff like that. And I think they came to realize though that I'm not technically meeting their criteria for homeless, I guess. I was talking to them for a while, and I told them about the YouTube thing. I told them about how I'm traveling around. I don't really live in the Bay Area. I'm kind of all over the place for the most part, and I don't know, I guess I don't even think they technically recorded me in their notebook there, but overall, it was really interesting to kind of hear their perspective. And for the first time in my life, I kind of wish that the police encounter went longer. I don't know if I'll ever say that again necessarily, but it would have been kind of nice to be able to talk with them, even for another 5 minutes or so, to have a little bit of a longer conversation about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and I guess in particular how that relates to van life and RV life and the whole housing crisis that's going on here in the city. I think that pretty much sums it up for this one here, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all in the next video.